bro. I'm saying, bro. So look, for everybody who's watching this, I just wanted to let y'all know, welcome to the Coffee Black Podcast. My name is Bartholomew Jones. I'm an educator, an MC, and a coffee nerd. I'm here today with my brother Farah, who is representing Aroma Coffee Co. all the way from Australia.
Yo, I'm representing Coffee Black too.
Gang, gang. Oh yeah, if you watching the stream, you know what I mean. You see what it is and what it ain't. You know what I mean. The real ones know. The real ones know. So yeah, man, I'm pretty excited to have this conversation. I think we should start it off just by talking to people about how we met, which is kind of a crazy story. You know what I mean? So for us, the Oromo people were kind of at the genesis of kind of our understanding of what coffee even is. We learned about, you know, the blackness of coffee because of learning about the fact that the Oromo people discovered coffee. You know, the story about Kaldi, that brother was Oromo. And so we met a brother named Ibrahim from Oromo Coffee Beans when we started our company last year, and he really taught us a lot, and that framed how we try to approach coffee in the perspective that we want to try to bring to the industry and to the hood, to, you know, to everywhere. And so, you know, that was kind of our origin. I met you on social media and like had a crazy set of events that I found out about later on. So you can kind of catch people up on where we met. Was that a couple months ago?
Oh man, look, I think the first time I interacted was almost about a year ago. But I was I started an Instagram page, just like a blogger, because coffee's always been an interest for me. And like I first started chatting to you like then.
Okay.
But when we launched, you pretty much reached out and connected through a post that I did, and you were just like, "Hey, hit me up. Let's see how I can."
Yeah, we bought some bags. We bought a bag of your coffee. It was delicious, by the way.
Thank you, man. You were genuinely one of our first 5 customers.
Wow.
On that list, yeah. So it was a big deal for me, man. It was a big deal, and I looked at for so long. You have no idea. Like I used to always be on your page, just all the time, from my personal page, from the other page that I did. Always looking up what Coffee Black is doing. I was just so motivated by you guys to try and do some bigger than just be another coffee brand.
Yeah,
I knew I wanted to do something a little bit more, give back to the people, give back to my people, and you guys were doing that to the top level. So it's like I was looking up to you guys.
Man, so when
now,
you say
now we're on the same.
I'm saying, bro, now we brothers in this thing, dog. It's crazy to think about. Like, I know when we had that conversation on Twitter, you were like, man, this is so dope. It's crazy that you all purchased. For me, I just know I try to keep my eye on anything to do with the Oromo people, especially to do with coffee, because I feel like there's a debt that's owed. You know what I mean? And like within America, you know, specifically in Black communities, we talk about honoring the OGs or honoring our elders. And so I think that when people start something, there's just a cultural mandate for me. You honor the people who started something. And from a hip hop perspective, especially, like you always want to honor the people who kind of paved the way. Yep. Especially when those people share the same skin tone as you and have experienced kind of an erasure, similar to how so many other areas of Black innovation get erased. And so for me, I was like, anything I can do, whether a coffee company or an importer or whoever, I'm trying to support whatever we can do and show that to the people. So when I didn't know y'all had just started, I assumed, wow, they've been doing it. I just want to make sure we support. It's important. And I want to use whatever products we get to educate my community about like Black discoveries. Right. Wow. And so like I bought it, but it's crazy to think like for us, even though the Oromo people were at the origin of what we started, for you were telling me like, somehow this American hip hop themed coffee company that we're doing was like some type of inspiration for what y'all were doing. Could you get into that a little bit more?
It blew my mind. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. It blew my mind. Like there's lots of people doing interesting things in coffee. And in Melbourne, especially where we are.
Yeah, y'all are big coffee nerds.
I could throw a rock and you hit a roaster.
In Scott Rao down there or somebody's down there?
Sorry?
Is that Rao dude? Scott Rao, I think is his name.
Yes, Scott Rouse, and man, there's a lot. Like honestly, there are so many people who are big in the coffee industry who are based here in Melbourne. Even the people that I work with. I mean, the people who brew my coffee, they're the guys who started the AeroPress Championships globally.
Woo.
So Melbourne's footprint, in the coffee industry is huge, you know?
Yeah.
So it's but there was no one there's no black people doing
Wow.
that have brands here that I could see.
Yeah.
But after I started the process of building Aroma to make it a viable business,
Yeah.
I started some other black roasters started to pop out of the woodwork, like even
Yeah.
some brothers from East Africa. Like there's even a brother from Somalia, which is where I'm from,
Oh, that's dope.
who's been making coffee in Sydney for 10 years or something. I never even knew that, you know?
Yeah,
So,
man. Shout out to Somalia.
yes.
Crazy.
But it's just you guys were just doing something different because you guys are mission driven. You're not just driven by coffee. You're mission driven, and not I can list maybe on my hands how many coffee roasters that do that here in Melbourne.
Yeah, it's just
And I
just
found it so
consumerism.
refreshing.
It's just like, hey, here's get my coffee. My coffee's the best. No, my coffee's the best. No, my coffee. You know what I mean? And
it's
from
all
a business,
coffee.
And yeah, it's like, yo, man, the people doing most of the work is not the people roasting the coffee.
That's it.
You know what I mean? Like if you get coffee from the continent, it's dope. I mean, that's really, they did 95% of the work. You know what I mean? So it's weird to think about an industry where 5% of the labor gets 90% of the market share in profit and also credit. It's like, how can you do competition where you're only doing 5% of the work?
Absolutely.
Like we can all buy coffee from the same farmers. So why is the point that, well, I got it and this one has an anaerobic process and this one has an anaerobic cinnamon cotton candy? It's like, yo, I'm a coffee nerd, right? I am a nerd. I get it. There's something really fun about it, you know? But it's not more important than people. You know what I mean?
Man. Absolutely. And that's what our whole brand is about. Like it's Aroma Coffee Co., just like you guys, is about it's about giving back to the community. So not even just here. I hope to do a lot more here in Melbourne with the African community. Only just started, so hopefully, and it started during Corona. So we'll see how that takes off.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're trying to give as much of our money back as possible to the communities in Africa who actually produce the coffee.
Yes.
The more we do that, the better the outcome is going to be for all of us, man. The more we give back to the African community, it's already top grade coffee. You know, coffee from Kenya and Ethiopia, you can't get any better globally. If we can just keep funneling our energy back into those communities, the coffee's going to be better and stronger and more amazing. And that's what we want, you know? I want to be brewing up like this my whole life. Just sipping something different from a different region, started by a young black woman, a young black man somewhere. You know, I want to see more of that coming through.
Bro, that's beautiful. So I noticed you don't really have like an accent. Like you don't have like an Australian, you know what I mean? Like
okay, that's
break down like what is it like being black in a black-owned coffee company, just black in Australia? Like are there a lot of people growing up? I know the Aboriginal people there maybe like 60,000 years ago came from the continent, right? But like what is that experience like, you know?
I mean, it's a varied experience for everybody. I would say.
Right. Well, why is that? Can you speak to that? Because so for my listeners in America, specifically the youth, because I spent 10 years as a teacher, so I always think about how my students hear what I'm saying. Awesome. A lot of kids black kids in America don't know that there are black people in other places besides America. So I remember one of our baristas, our head barista, Omarion, he's my neighbor. So we moved into the hood in Memphis, or back into the hood after college. We started mentoring him. Now he's one of our head baristas. That boy makes a better pour over than me every time, makes me mad. But like I remember I was telling him like, yo, we're getting ready to partner with some farmers in Ethiopia and Haiti and in Colombia, and they're all black. And he was like, they have black people there? And I was like, yeah. So I had to show him pictures and video. Like he was like, yo, they look just like me. But it's like, how do you get black people all over the world? You know, and it's like immigration, colonialism, and the slave trade. You know what I mean? But he didn't understand that. So let's assume some of my students are listening. Like which black people are in Australia, and then how do they kind of get there, and what's that experience like? Because you obviously don't have an Australian accent, so I'm assuming you didn't grow up. You know, what's up, mate? I don't know. I ain't even gonna try to do the accent.
I've spent so much of my life here. Most of them
Wow.
are there. But I, you know, when you grow up in the diaspora, you kind of spend a lot more time within your own community a lot of the
Yep.
time.
Yep.
So, and also, you know, we came up. My dad used to work in international organizations like the UN and the World Bank when we were
Wow.
younger. So, you know, we went through when we were younger American schools, English schools in Kenya, all sorts
Okay.
of stuff. So,
Oh, so y'all was
and
globetrotting.
yeah, so well, basically, my parents were globetrotting. I was just along for the ride, man.
Yeah, but
So,
that's cool though.
but what we came where we, I think my dad was kind of in the, my parents were kind of in the second, maybe third wave of skilled migrants coming to Australia.
Yeah.
So there was a period of time when we moved, when in the late 80s, where they were offering opportunities to migrants who had education in their background. So, you know,
Okay.
having degrees in master's degrees or opportunities to study in Australian schools or work in Australian government organizations.
Yeah.
And my dad was kind of in flux because he wanted to stay in Africa, but at the same time, he was sick of the politics.
Yeah, man.
So he thought make a change, and that's how we ended up here. Him.
And so I know
So
you name of your company is Aromo Coffee Beans, and we talked a little bit
yes,
about just ethnically why that is. One of your parents is Aromo, correct?
well, technically through her genes, yes.
Yes.
So my mom, my dad. So my it's a convoluted thing. My mom is Eritrean,
Yeah.
but she grew up. Her whole family's from Somalia,
Yep.
and that's how her and my dad linked up. And my dad is Somali, like
Yeah.
several generations back. It's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
when he was actually shocked you know when you do your genealogy check.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was so shocked how black he was because there's lots of
Yo.
Somalis with Arab blood in them or
Yeah.
Malaysian just because of the slave trade. You know, there's
Yep.
just an and the
Well,
spice
you're
trade.
talking about the East African slave. See, you dropping gems.
Yeah,
Okay, so you gotta. Okay, hold on. Let me reel it back. Okay, so one thing I just wanted to say is that the reason why I brought up ethnicity is because a lot of Oromo people are displaced because of violence in
yes,
Ethiopia and in East Africa oftentimes. And so like there's a lot of migration because of that. And so just wanted to
yeah.
shout that out and say we stand with them. You know what I mean? And
Educator, always an educator, man. I love that
bro,
about you.
I was a teacher for 10 years in the hood. I can't do nothing but.
I
And
love
so
it.
like
I
that
love it.
that piece is important, right? And as we think about the diaspora, it's interesting that you bring up like, man, the amount of diversity. My wife and I just got our DNA test back, right? And so like
Yeah,
a
tell me
big,
about it.
like I would say the third biggest people group in my DNA is like Bantu peoples, and that goes, kind of all the way from Rwanda all the way over to.
That's my peoples, man. Somalis, we have Bantus there too. So you guys
I'm
are.
saying, bro. I'm saying if you see a picture of my grandmother, like I was talking to one of my friends from Burundi, Gael, which y'all gotta meet, but he's big into exporting coffee from Burundi and using that to support the diaspora. And he was like, bro, like your grandma could walk into a Rwandan village and just like nobody she's passed now, she's with the Lord, but it's
Oh
one of
man,
those things where
sorry to
like
hear.
yeah, bro, it's cool, man. She in a better place. You know what I mean? So the diversity is crazy. And so as we think about that, it's like you looking at like even yourself, like you're embodying that diversity. And then your pops was like, it's funny, man. That's a good point. Like the amount of blackness in the DNA sometimes be surprising
Yeah,
people, you know?
crazy how much it is because there's always gonna be something that kind of that changes your DNA to a certain
Yep.
extent. Some white man might have assaulted or someone in
Bro, I'm
hundreds of
Scottish.
years ago, and that's new. You see,
I'm
you
like
see what I'm
11%
saying?
Scottish, bro. Like, but nobody
How do
would
you
know,
explain that? How do you
Yep.
explain that? Like, how do you know that story?
Hey, I'm
How did
pulling
that
up in the
happen?
kilt, bro. You know what I mean? I was like, hey, next time they do a white power
Uh,
rally, I'm pulling up. Like, hey, I'm good, guys.
Please do, bro.
Here go
Please
my
do, man. I would totally buy a coffee black branded kilt. If you ever make those, I'm
bro.
gonna buy
I'm
a coffee
thinking
black kilt.
that would be
I'm gonna buy
fuego.
those. That's a merch right there, man.
That would be fuego, man. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like, okay, so y'all had this crazy experience of moving around. Your
Yes.
parents give me like James Bond vibes. You know what I mean? They're just like
If
trying to glow.
maybe they were a little bit, but they didn't want to tell us. Oh
Changing
man,
the world. And now
definitely.
they eventually moved to Australia. And how old
Yep.
were you when that happened?
Man, I was 3 years old
Wow.
when I moved here. Yeah.
So you
So
moved.
most of my life, I'm 30, turning 36 this in July. So
Congratulations, bro.
thanks, man.
Congratulations. So you're
Thank you.
36. moved to Australia. I'm sorry, year 3 when you moved to Australia. What was it like growing up black in Australia?
Man, this is where the experiences are very, because I grew up in a very small like African community in
Yep.
Canberra, which is like the capital.
Okay.
So that's like it's our Washington, really. And I would say my experience was tough.
Yeah.
So a lot of people's lived experiences are very easy. Like my sisters had it easier based on the stories we share and my friends. But I think it was just circumstance, really. Maybe I was picked on a little bit more than necessary, or race had been a bit of a theme in a lot of the conversations I had when I was younger, up until I got older and that started to matter less.
Yeah.
So if you could talk to somebody who's black here in Australia, and they'll say they've never had a problem with race.
Right.
You might talk to some who, or more than some, I would say, that have experienced that. And I could say it was
that's
tough
important,
for me coming up.
People think the black experience is monolithic, and I think that's one of the things that one of my favorite speakers here is like black people are not a monolith. You know what I mean? Right. Just like you wouldn't assume that a German's experience in Sweden would be monolithic like that. It depends on the person. So within that,
so true.
Yeah, within that space, that definitely makes sense. But what was your experience?
It was good. Overall, my experience. I mean, I grew up having two of the greatest parents you can never think. Like,
come on,
blessed. Man, I'm so blessed, honestly. The best parents, and they just they built us up to weather the storm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There wasn't a conversation I couldn't handle.
Yeah.
Through my process of education that my parents gave me. There wasn't a situation I couldn't deal with.
That's so powerful.
It was a struggle, but man, when you have parents like mine, you're set up for success. I have to say everything I have in my life is due to those two.
Bro.
For real.
And that's the legacy of family, bro. Like that's the legacy of knowing who you are and where you come from and what you're about. When you have that, like you can go through the most difficult situation. And I think about my grandparents a lot. I talk about my grandmother, the woman who my brother was saying looks like she could just pull up in a Rwandan village. Like she picked growing up, so she would pick like 400 pounds of cotton a day. Not as a slave, but as a low-class worker, basically a cash crop worker. It was the only way she could make money. She was just a dark-skinned woman in Alabama. And, I can't imagine that kind of labor, but she voluntarily chose to do that because for her, it was like, well, it's either this or I have nothing. Right. And so she was getting pennies per pound. That, she would work all day and go home with $4 or $5. But it was for her, it was like, man, if I can do this enough, I can earn enough to basically like liberate myself from poverty. And so like that legacy for me, when I go through any difficult, people ask us a lot, like, yo, how do y'all do this and this and this and this? I'm like, you don't understand where I come from. You know what I mean? Like if my grandparents were living my life now, they would say this is easy. You know what I mean? Like this is nothing compared to what my people have been through. So like I think when you have that and you're confident in that and you have those values and you're connected, like you can persevere through any difficulty. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
That's beautiful,
Couldn't
bro.
agree with you more, man.
Yeah.
And I guess you could say relatively humble beginnings from my dad's side. My dad was like he was literally herding goats, when he was a kid.
Wow.
At some stage, there was almost a period of time between the age of 10 and 12 where he was homeless, like in the streets of Egypt. But his motto, which is why me and my sisters is just, we're gonna be studying the rest of our lives. Education will get you out of anything. So my dad kind of focused and, got great grades, got scholarships to study in Germany, and it changed his life,
Yeah.
And that's the same tip. So we're on the same tip, and my wife's family's big on education too. So that's why I want to educate. I don't want to just have like another coffee brand. I want to educate people through my coffee brand. Teach them something new. Teach them to that the world is so big out there.
Yeah.
It's so big. Like you said, there are people in America who don't even know African people exist. There's pockets around them.
Or like my grandmother, the only thing she knew about Africa, so my other grandma, not that grandma, my paternal grandmother, like I remember she didn't know anything about Africa besides Tarzan. So she didn't know it. Like I remember my dad actually went to Kenya and it transformed his understanding of one, skin tone in Africa, because my father, if you can see a picture, you know, my father is lighter than you. You know what I mean? Like, and so, but my mother and my grandmother are darker than me. And so he went to Africa, he was like, the diversity on the continent blew his mind. He didn't know.
Yeah, man.
And like the amount of accomplishments and history and riches. But when you're in America, part of the thing why it's so important for us to do this and to name the Oromo people and to name that coffee comes from Black people. And as one of my brothers, Jono at Portrait Coffee says, coffee only grows where Black and brown people do. Like the reason why is because we only have this really bad image of ourselves. Like if you have a mirror and you know, like it's distorted, and so you think that's what you are. And like when you find out the amount of like the most consumed product in the world was discovered by, I mean, after oil was discovered by a Black man, and like that education and that information is transformative, and that's why we're like, man, we want to rechange the way people think. We want to make it Black again. You know what I mean? And like allow people to see.
Man, making coffee Black again. When I heard that tagline, I know that's not like, I'm sorry, my background is in marketing.
Come on, bro.
Bro, man, I died. I was like, man,
you're not still dead, is it?
This is the best. No, man. Oh,
good. That boy, he back.
Amazing.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful, man.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
It's something I could buy in lock, stock, and barrel, man. I can put all my money in behind that, and I know that it's, you know, we're headed in the right direction. You know.
Facts, bro.
So,
facts, man.
Man,
we in a similar spot.
But like you're right about the whole like Africa experience. Like, because when I went back to Africa for the first time in a long time, back in 2018. This was in 2015. Sorry, before me and my wife got married. And my wife is from Kenya. And it's crazy. It's a crazy experience because like you're so used to just the simple thing of seeing, you know, dollar bills with African dudes on it. You know? And knowing like the person's face on that note. You know, the current president in Kenya. That's his dad. You know.
Wow.
It's a weird thing to go through that. Like to see, you know, whatever you feel about their politics or whatever. It's awesome to see that kind of level of Black excellence.
Bro,
it's in every echelon of Africa. Because
to get to the point,
you know,
the point where we can see Black people making mistakes and making the wrong choice, and that not be the only story is so powerful, bro. So like true, to say, like, I can be empowered by this, and he doesn't have to be Martin Luther King to be empowered from it. Because even Martin Luther King wasn't Martin Luther King, not the way we think about him. When you read, like, he made mistakes. He was a human being. And I think what sucks about colonialism and slavery is that it removes the opportunity or the right to be human, which something you have when you're born because that's your species, right? But you get forced to either be, you know, similar to you think about your dad, like he had this choice where he almost had to become superhuman, right? And accomplish superhuman tasks. Or my grandmother, like she had a child, she was picking 400 pounds a day, had a baby, the next day picked 200 pounds of cotton. Like
you can do that.
How that's not humanly possible, but it's like part of the damage, but also part of the, I don't know, pride, I feel, is the ability to overcome overwhelming situations, you know, and to some extent that's traumatizing, right? But like, and we got to unpack that, but like the pride to know that it is possible, we've done that. And so like just seeing a point where like, wow, we can appreciate the accomplishments and not let any negative choice that we've made or that people make a mistake say, well, now that disqualifies the pride. No. This is a human being, right? And we can, just like we can say people take pride in George Washington, right? And ignore the fact that he was a rapist and a slave owner. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
If y'all go take pride in that, brother, you know, it's some brothers and sisters that we can take pride in as well. And I think that that's a part of your humanity, is to say, like, I'm going to learn from the accomplishments of my history, and I'm going to avoid the mistakes. And you can take all those good and the bad, and like that's a beautiful thing. So, man, okay, last thing I want to talk to you about, okay, before, because you and me can chop. We got to chop off
this all day, man. Honestly,
I'm saying
do this off wax for a few hours too.
For real, bro. But I know you got to go to work. And I just made this chicken, so I'm finna throw that out. The air fryer is lit, bro. I'm saying, dog. Like people. So one of the things you and I talk about a lot is like, and I'm curious about this, right? Is how does coffee get from the Oromo people discovering it in Ethiopia? We know the history of like it being consumed. I kind of said like an energy ball almost, where people mix ghee and the coffee fruit and the beans, and it's a stimulant in that regards. And then we know the Jebana was created in 1100 AD, right? And so like there's a history here. How does coffee get across the Red Sea? And I've always wondered that. And you may or may not have the answer, but you and me have passed around a couple articles, and so I'm curious to know your thoughts on that. And if you're listening and you have some information about that, like please chime in.
Please share with both of us. Don't just share with this man. Share with me too, please.
Yeah, I'm saying we're working on a curriculum called the 1616 project that is gonna be able to try to get a traceable, a somewhat people. I mean, history. We're talking about like ancient history at this point, so people are gonna disagree, and that's fine for there to be multiple perspectives. But we want my man sipping straight from the carafe. I just noticed.
I don't mess around. I don't mess around.
You like, I don't need no cup.
No, what do I need a cup?
Hey, that's gangster, bro. I like that. So I think that as I think about it, I'm like, okay, how does coffee get? And I talked to my homie Mokhtar from Porto Mocha. He's one of my. We have a couple really good Yemeni friends who we talk about too. Especially when we're starting trying to understand, like, you know, there's kind of competing history. And he was like, nah, man. Ethiopian people discovered it, and that kind of was like, okay, cool. My homie put the stamp on it. So, how does coffee get from across the Red Sea between Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Yemen? But obviously, Yemen had a huge part to do with like the brewing process of coffee. And so, how did that? Was it a bird? Did a bird eat a bean and fly across the Red Sea and poop it out? You know, did Moses and them take a couple with them when they went across? Man.
Like everything good in life is just through trade, man. As far as I'm aware, it's through the trade of coffee. So, and the thing that people don't get is that coffee, I shared it with you. This was a while back now. The kingdom of Aksum, which is like one of the greatest kingdoms in East Africa, dating back to like 150 BC.
Yeah.
One of their biggest traded goods was coffee.
Yeah.
So there's evidence. There's very little, but there's still evidence of them trading coffee even before it was a popular commodity in that region.
Right.
So there were people who were interested in coffee in Africa before it became the drink. That whole Chalde story might have some validity, but I think it's only. Yeah, again, like people say, it's kind of like a justification or like a cute story to hide all the nasty aspects of coffee trade.
Yep.
But there's evidence of Ethiopians trading coffee well before it was in Arab hands.
Wow. So how can you elaborate on that? Because you're teaching me right now, so I'm taking notes. Yeah. So back to which king in Aksum was it?
The kingdom of Aksum. I think that's now like in Tigray region.
Right. You said there was a particular king. Is that correct?
There was a particular king. Now, I'm sorry, man.
I swear I think you just said it. I'm gonna rewind it when we get off the podcast. I think you just said his name. But
the kingdom is Aksum.
Right.
AKSUM.
Right.
Well, the biggest thing that they traded. One of the biggest things that they traded was coffee. So there was a reliance on their coffee trade.
And this is in BC.
And that kingdom it was in existence, or they know as far back as 150 BC. So if one of their biggest trades was coffee, then they must have been trading it for a long time.
Right.
And they controlled it. Like the kingdom of Aksum did have some control over coffee trade for a period of time until it opened up. And
the question is how, right? How? Because I think that question matters a lot when it comes to ownership. I'm going to link that article because you shared it with me, so I'm going to link that in the description when we drop the podcast. But I think that it was really interesting when you shared that with me, and part of our genesis as a company was saying, looking at history that doesn't explain how and asking the question how.
Right.
Because, if you were to read an American textbook, for instance, it would just say some Africans came over to visit their friends in the United States, and they wanted the Native Americans wanted to help their Pilgrim friends, and now we're all in America. And it's like, okay, but how did they get here?
Yeah.
How was the help requested? And I think a lot of times the story's lost in the how. You know what I mean?
100%, man. And you know what? Something my dad kind of hit on a while back. He was trying to explain that a lot of conquering of new land and territory is always given to, it's always told that it's white people or Polynesian people did that kind of thing, or Vikings. It's always, there's a certain group of people that are attributed to sourcing. But like, I don't have it on me, but I'm happy to share the information my dad shared with me. There's evidence of Africans being seafarers.
Yep.
Especially from the region that we come from, because we relied so heavily on fishing. We always have,
Come on, bro.
And it's so that's
it's people mapping out
reaching new territory. It's happened. It's been happening for thousands of years, but Africans have just never been good record keepers. So but there's evidence of that happening.
Yeah, that's that. And I think that's powerful, bro. Like looking at, it's crazy. I was just looking at a bunch of research today on, African visitors to the New World, and to North and South America. And
they might have been Africans in America before there were white people in America.
Yep, bro. Yep.
Yeah.
Prior
to that, know that, but they might have been. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. There's a lot of history that just gets ignored, and so as we think about that, like it's like, okay, how does coffee, like, okay, so the Kingdom of Aksum is exporting coffee. They're controlling the trade because, again, people want to know, well, why would you want to control the trade? Because there's money associated with that.
Correct.
It's the same thing as a drug game. If you got the plug, you're not going to just get that up, right? That's an asset. And so, how, from what you understand, like how does the transmission happen? And then I think a question I want to ask you, because I think people have kind of asked it as well. How, actually, we had a conversation online. Someone asked us, how is the theft of coffee from Yemen a theft from Black people? Obviously, we know Yemen is a Middle Eastern country. Even though I don't really subscribe to the term Middle East, that's a whole other conversation. The question is how, and I have a strong opinion as to why, right?
Slavery always ties back to slavery, but always ties back to slavery, man.
Right, but let's just
do you ever watch the show? Do you ever watch the show Blackish?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like Andre all the time. When I explain stuff to people, it's just like, dude, slavery. That's the answer. Slavery did this. Slavery did that. Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, but break that down for the people, though. Break that down for the people, though.
So the Arabs were obviously, you had the Turkish kingdoms, and you had the big, the
Ottoman Empire,
and exactly, the Ottoman Empire. They did have a big footprint in Africa, and a big part of the development of certain African regions was as a result of Arab influence, right?
Yeah.
And what people don't want to, I guess because we're all partners in this, so people don't want to highlight the fact that Arabs had a big part to do with the slave trade.
Yeah, bro. There was like a whole separate slave trade outside of the one that happened in the transatlantic slave trade.
And it was happening before the transatlantic slave trade.
Yep.
It was happening before then. So Arabs were trying to rule our territory, or had reign over our territory to a certain extent for a while.
Yeah.
And through this, but also the Kingdom of Aksum, through legitimate reasons, used to trade through the spice route.
Yep.
So because they
Silk Road,
like myrrh and incense, exactly. So the coffee was just another thing that they traded through the spice route too. So it wasn't just slavery.
And the issue was also like, when you trade, though, are you trading fertile seeds or infertile seeds? And I think that's a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trading
an interesting
seeds.
One.
Right. When I'm trading seeds to you, I don't have to give you fertile seeds.
Yeah.
Right. I can through a wash process, I believe, that kit, when you do a wash process on coffee, makes the seed, which is, when we say beans, it's a seed, right? It becomes infertile. And I know at least in Yemen, that was a big practice where people were like, oh, we gonna make sure this is washed, because if you get it and can grow it, and that kind of kills our monopoly on it. And ironically, when the Dutch took it, they tried to grow it in the Netherlands, which the climate doesn't work, right? So it failed. But but then eventually people took it to Indonesia, and it would grow there, and those people weren't enslaved. Like I still tripped at the term as I read the history, and we're putting this resource together. Like, I just see the term coffee plantation. Like, you know what I mean? Like, folks literally said plantation. Like, it's not, people weren't trying to hide that this was slavery. You know what I mean?
Nope. Nope.
It's wild.
And it's exactly why I wanted to get into the coffee business. So we could reverse that. It's just
come on, bro.
Complete nonsense, man. And my background in coffee, like especially I've worked in coffee for quite a while. I worked for Nespresso, which is like selling the capsules, and I also worked for Lavazza, trying to help expand their trade, here in Melbourne. But when you meet people within the industry, in the coffee industry specifically, like if I go to meeting rooms in Sydney, Melbourne, wherever it is, you never see a black person. I was the only black person I ever interacted with. Yeah. It's crazy how there's such a disconnect that the entire global expansion of coffee was completely overseen by people who don't even grow it. Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild?
Bro, it's bananas. It's really it's inconceivable, bro. Like it's one of those joints where it's like this only happens when the people who are growing it don't maintain means of production to get in my like socialist bag a little bit. I'm not all the way out there. Obviously, I own a business, so I can't be a socialist like I was in college. But I think there's still some value in saying like people who produce should be represented in the product when it reaches the end of the consumption chain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And the practices of how coffee is picked.
Yeah, bro.
There's still businesses out there that don't get pick coffee by hand, like big corporations that still shake trees or strip trees. Just for the sake of, you know what I'm saying? And that's
wow.
If you allowed more black people to be part of the process in terms of operations, you would produce better coffee.
The quality would increase.
Exactly.
Yeah, bro. So there's this quote that we have, and it says, I only remember this because somebody just posted this on our Instagram, but it said, "No sugar, no cream, please. Just let us breathe," which is kind of like a remix from one of our songs. You might find you enjoy the notes. And like that piece right there is, I think people like, so if the movie Black Messiah or Judas and the Black Messiah just came out in the States. I don't know if it's out internationally, but it's on HBO Max, and it's about Fred Hampton's life and his betrayal from another member of the Black Panther Party. And there's a part in the movie where Fred Hampton first goes to gangs in Chicago, and then goes to like white militia groups, and then goes to like Latin American gangs and militia groups, and says like, we all have the same struggle. You know what I mean? Like, as we're fighting for liberation, we're poor people fighting against rich people. Right. And a lot of the school for my kids sucks. Guess what? The school for your kids sucks too. And it's for the same reason. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so we're not each other's enemies. And I think that when we think about this, bro, like it's like our liberation is not to enslave other people, but it's because in us liberating ourselves, right, we're able to also liberate others. Right, we're also able to benefit and fully operate. Like an enslaved man can't make you the same type of food that a free man can. You know what I mean? And the meal that we can create, and the food we can bring to our community and to the world, the offerings we can bring. Like, if this is what we were able to accomplish, oppressed coffee, hip hop, mathematics. You know, like this is like if these are the things we made while we was down and out. Imagine what it's gonna look like when we're united and liberated. Like the things that are gonna come are gonna be things that everybody's gonna want and need. And those things won't be, in the X-Men comics right now, there's I'm a big comic book nerd, and there's this thing called the Island of Krakoa, where all the mutants, Magneto to Professor X, all decide to move to one place and use their powers as a nation. And they create these medicines that the whole world eventually starts to want, because it can cure cancer, all type of crazy stuff, because they're able to use their resources for production and not just for resistance. And that's kind of our dream for the diaspora uniting through coffee, is like, we have so many different things that I think people like, but if we were able to use them without having to fight poverty, without having to fight colonialism and gentrification and these type of things, like the products we could create, the coffee we could create would be, it's already dope. You know what I mean? But like, imagine, like you said, if more agency and humanity was given back to people. Like,
absolutely, man. Yeah,
stop
yeah,
enforcing
absolutely.
these sugar and cream practices in places where it don't make sense, you know?
So true, man. So true. And I'm like, I like anything, and I know this is gonna come across as biased, but that's fine. I mean, black people, we make everything better. We've made music better. The
Yep.
more that we were involved in music, we made food better. The more you involve us in the process of food, we make politics better when you involve us in politics. We
Yep.
make operations better at work in terms of providing more equity and diversity. If
Yep.
you include us more, like if you include more black people in the process of not just the production of coffee, but the distribution of coffee,
Right.
coffee is gonna thrive. It's gonna
Bro.
thrive.
Bro. Okay, this is my last point, and then I gotta go because I could talk to you all day. Um, I think that's a beautiful point, and we were having a conversation with some people from I think it's the Daily Grind. I think they're a publication out of the UK or
Yes,
something.
awesome.
And, yeah, and they one of their people interviewed us for this branding company called Impact. They do packaging, and they were saying, "Hey, what's the importance of using local artists?" And I had to think about it a second because there's no other kind of artist I would think to use. Like
Right.
our graphic designer is my wife and my neighbor. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like my neighbor, let me see, the anti-gentrification coffee club stuff, like my neighbor did this. Like he lives, 20, 30 minutes away. My wife designed pretty much everything for Coffee Black between me and her.
She did the Gucci Mane. She did the Gucci
Oh yeah.
Mane logo.
She's not, bro. When we tell you about, let me holler on black women real quick, because the history of black women in coffee oftentimes gets underplayed. But the whole production of Buna in Ethiopia and in Somalia and Eritrea, like that's black women.
It is black women
doing four Scott Rouse jobs, right? They're sourcing, they're roasting, they're brewing, and they're doing the process on making sure that things are produced correctly. So, like,
correct. These women,
they've been doing that thousands of years.
They don't even need like these. There are people right now that think that you need to get like Q grading to be able to like taste coffee, and to like African women have been doing that.
Come on, Q grading, that's 5 people's jobs. Hold up, you just added another one.
That's African women used to do that. They used to
no
do
certifications. Just as you know, in America, we say they got a whole lot of soul. You know what I mean? That's that black girl magic. So, like, there's not I think that when you think about, wow, well, what if these people were given the resources, right, that we give to these big fancy roasters and give it to, bro, the amount, it's not even a conversation. And this is not to diminish any other like ethnic group, because for me, how I say is me celebrating and dialing in, creating an environment where the notes of a beautiful washed Ethiopian can shine, right, does not diminish the beauty of a natural Ethiopian, does not diminish the beauty of a washed or natural Kenyan, does not diminish the beauty of a Panamanian geisha. Like, in fact, us putting the effort here actually will highlight the notes and the beauty of each coffee. And as we learn to enjoy the notes, the innate notes in each community, we actually find that it makes us more curious. Well, if this is here, what else is over here we've been missing? Right. And so like the possibilities and the amount of things that I believe God has put on in creation that we miss because of our own oppressive tendencies as human beings and our own tribalism or whatever, like we're living in a poor version of what we were meant to experience,
True, man.
And so, like, I think coffee is a great metaphor for us to better be curious about ourselves and our neighbors,
100%, man. 100%.
So yeah, bro.
It's such an education, man. Like when you start to dive into coffee, really, it's the greatest education, especially on black people. If you really want to lean in, man, the things you can learn about black excellence through coffee is
crazy.
Brilliant.
It's crazy, bro.
It blows my mind.
Well, look, this has been an amazing conversation, bro. How can people support your coffee? How can people support the movement? And then I got one coffee nerd question for you before we go.
Okay, sure. So the name of our business is Aromo Coffee Co.
Yep.
Just like every other business, we're on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn.
They're tagged in the title. So if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitter, like, you can see the link in it. Just click on that title.
Take a look at us. And we also, for Black History Month, 50% of our profits are going to be donated to a charity. It's called Kula, the Kula Project.
Yeah.
Those people do some amazing things in terms of empowering Black communities there and
Yeah.
driven by women, educating them to be independent entrepreneurs, and it's just amazing work. So please check
Wow.
them out too. They're called the Cooler Project, and if you buy any of our coffee, most of the money is going to go there this month. So,
Yeah.
and that's it for now. Until I
That's
check back
which
with you next
coffees
time.
would you recommend people go get? So
Easy
y'all have
for us.
multiple
We only have
options.
two. We have
Yep.
two. We're gonna be launching Rwandan next month.
Yeah.
But we've got two coffees exclusively from Ethiopia. One is an espresso blend for those, because Melburnians just love espresso. So I'm
Yep.
kind of catering to the community.
Yep.
But it's a single origin. It's from Tega and Tula, which is a really well-renowned farm. They make beautiful coffee.
Wow.
And also we have a filter coffee from Cheltele, which is
Yeah.
even more, even just, you've tasted it. That's the one you had, the boisterous bean.
Bro, you sent us both,
Try.
bro. They crazy.
Oh
they
yeah, good.
Yeah,
Good.
you sent us
Yeah,
both.
man. But that the Cheltele, that's probably, I honestly say the roasters that we work with did an amazing job, because I've never tasted anything so unique. It's so different,
Yeah.
especially in this market that we're in. I
Yeah.
mean, there's probably roasters over there in America that maybe do a better job, but
Hey, bro, I think the best roasters on the continent in Ethiopia, if you ask me. So, like,
man.
that's
and I tell you, Ethiopian coffee, you can make Ethiopian single origins into anything.
Yep.
I don't let anybody tell you what. You don't need to blend any Brazilian or Java, nothing. Just
because it all comes from
can be anything.
The mother plant for all these coffees is in Ethiopia, and you got her sister and her sister and her sister that didn't even make it off the continent yet. So, like, the genetic, from a scientific perspective, the biodiversity, bro, is what bro. You gonna get me started again? But it's like me and my homie Steven have a whole thing when people get really hyped up. The specialty coffee market is to me oppressively built on novelty and the exotification of, like, the products that these communities produce and of the people themselves, right? Which is why people can like work really hard to, like, try to be fair and loving to people of color at origin, and then ignore people of color in the neighborhoods, in the shops they gentrify. It's because there's this exotification, which is, I'm not even going to get into that. But I will say that the novelty of coffee is a part of the issue here, right? Is because we're otherizing it. And when we otherize it, a lot of times what happens is that, well, that only is, you just want a flavor of the week. Well, most recently people have been super excited about lactic acid processed coffee. And I want to actually ask you, what are you excited about in coffee right now from, like, a brewing perspective? How are you brewing? But before we get to that, I just want to acknowledge, like, the reality is that anything you want in coffee can be discovered in Africa. So more specifically, in Africa, anything you want in coffee can be discovered in Ethiopia. You know what I mean? Like, that coffee bean, that genetic varietal, right? Yeah. For the most part, those flavor notes exist on the continent because there's so many trees that don't even get harvested in the forest. Like, it's crazy. It's just the way they say, a smorgasbord. You know what I mean?
It's a smorgasbord in that. Oh man.
So, like, people, Ethiopia, man. Yeah, man. It's not just, first of all, the kind of classic blueberry, lemon, delicate tea-like coffee is in Ethiopia, and that's beautiful. But there are just as many other kinds that people don't even think about, or that haven't even been harvested yet. You know what I mean? Or that are just a part of a village's process, and they've been drinking it for 1,000 years, and nobody knows about it off the. You know what I mean? Yep. So there's definitely.
I had some coffee when I went to my wife's. The region she's from is Kisii, which is like I think it's like northwest.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. But I tried a coffee there, and I could, like, I tasted all these floral notes. Like, when I say floral, I mean I literally could taste flowers.
Yep.
It blew my mind. Like, it's untapped. The kind of coffee you can make.
I'm saying, bro, it's undiscovered. And I think, like, last year, my favorite coffee was a coffee we did with Onyx Coffee, and it had this wild, like, perfume. It was weird. I was like, I literally was walking around, like, hours after drinking coffee, and I taste like perfume in my mouth. Like it was crazy, bro. So not like, and I've never had a coffee like that, and I may never have it again. So like the reality of how much is left to be explored and appreciated and dialed in is significant. But speaking of dialing in, last question I always ask this: what are you curious and excited about in coffee right now? It could be a brewing method, it could be a particular region, it could be a brewing process on a particular method. But like, you know, what are you drinking right now, and what are you curious about in coffee?
Well, to be honest with you, today I'm drinking my own brew.
Yeah,
so I'm drinking the Boys for Bean right now,
as you should.
But I do, one thing I will say, one thing I'm excited about what you guys have done is that with the Guji main.
Yeah,
dude, Guji is such a
bro.
What a region! What a region for coffee.
You talking about diversity?
So underrated, man. Like that,
bro. It's a whole different. It's a whole different. Even like that's the thing we like about it is because people think they know. Like that, people always want to put black things in a box. They always want to say, "Well, I know what that is." It's like, no, you don't, bro. Like the if you know what God is, then you can say you know what these things are, right? But if you haven't even explored a tenth of what's here. So and then that much, and the creator's creativity is even more than that. So you can't say that you know what this is, and I think that's a very 100%. Western mindset. Is to say, "Oh, I know what that is," you know. And there's a certain humility when you are connected to the ground, which is to say, like, I don't know. Let me sit and learn. Let me listen and let the ground and let creation and the creator talk to me, right? And then all I'm doing is sharing the notes that I received. I'm not saying I know what they all are. I'm saying this is what I received. So
who can really know what the notes are?
Bro,
do you really know? I mean, really.
And there's so many variables from the cup to the growing process to the region to the people who produce the coffee to the planet. Like I just believe there's an amount of diversity and celebration, and I think I would say that there's a certain amount of almost humility and like homage that is meant it's meant to make us be in awe. And those are the best moments in coffee and me. When I'm in awe of how much can come from a very small thing, it reminds me of how much else is here that I don't know and how much greater God is than me. You know what I mean? Like absolutely, that, man. How much honor is due to brothers and sisters on the planet who produce these. Like it's most to make me feel small and also great at the same time, you know? But one of my brothers, Ibrahim, has this quote. He says, "To the Aroma people, coffee is more than just a drink to get you going. To the Aroma people, coffee's connection with creation, with your neighbor, with family, with self, with God. To the Aroma people, coffee is everything." And I think that perspective is a perspective that's much needed in the specialty coffee world right now, 100%. Which is kind of built on like a conquering conquest kind of vibe, or I gotta find them all so I know them all, and it's like more so like let us just be in, like, you know, in the garden, like we were in the garden. It was just like, wow, I'm here and I am silent and I am appreciative and grateful. You know, so what are you, aside from my sermon, what are you grateful? What are you? Yeah, bro, I can't help it, man. Everybody in my family is a preacher. So what are you grateful for in coffee? You know, what are you excited about? What are something that you're like, you're drinking your coffee? How did you brew it? What is like a moment or a thing that I was really excited, you know what I mean? Like that brought some of that humility, gratitude.
It got me one of these Kinto. Have you seen these Kinto things?
Ooh, no, bro. Put me on game.
Yeah, so it's like basically like a tiny filter coffee thing.
Okay. Right? That's clean, bro.
Yeah, it's clean, and that's the beauty of this carafe is you can effectively just drink straight out of this carafe.
Wow.
So I used to use
is that a V60?
It's a V60, yeah.
Okay. What kind of recipe did you use?
Man, I didn't even think of recipe this morning, man.
You just vibed out. Bro, sometimes that's my favorite thing to do. It's just to get in, like, it feels like making music, but you know, you just interact with the bean and you take the formulas and the 1 to 16 and the timers out and you just interact, you know what I mean? And connect.
Man, and it's kind of like a thing my mom used to do. It's like my timer is in here. Like I have, I know exactly how to brew what it is that I want in the morning.
Yep.
So I know exactly how many spoons. It's like, you know, when your mom in the kitchen, my mom in the kitchen, it's everything is cut and paste. She
Bro.
can't explain to me how she did
Bro.
it, but she
Come
just
on,
did it.
bro.
That's how it is for me with with
And
coffee.
you, bro, that's that
And
embodied knowledge, bro. Come on,
oh
bro.
man, but oh man, I could what I
Yeah,
could do is we have a couple recipes I can share, I can send through. Um,
of course. Hey,
what we drink, but
Thurgood just joined the
oh
stream.
man,
Say hello.
hey,
Thurgood,
hello
Vernon,
man,
Clarence Henderson, man. So, yeah, no, but
very
that's
good. Wow,
embodied
that's a beautiful
information.
name.
Hey, bro, it's
Yeah.
been named after our ancestors. So, Vernon was my wife's grandfather, and he marched with Dr. King. He was a sanitation worker in Memphis whose protests basically brought Dr. King down to support what they were doing. Clarence is my grandfather, and his father was like one of the first free black people in our ancestry. He was actually able to own land, and so yeah, bro. So we named him after his son Clarence, who's my grandfather. And yeah, bro. And then obviously Thurgood Marshall, we know about his
Yeah.
So yeah, bro. He got
a
lot of legacy, right? We talked about that education, right? His
Yep.
name brings that education, that legacy to let him know like we can do this. We've been doing this.
Absolutely,
You know.
man. Absolutely.
So yeah, you said you there's like an indigenous or indwelling knowledge, embodied knowledge, which is I think a very African way to view things, right? Instead of saying I am bound to this scale and this number and what it says, there's other kinds of knowledge you can have besides just numbers, you know?
100%, man. And I tell you, there's I went through this period where I got really irritated. Like a lot of people were telling me, oh man, you know, I haven't bought any filter coffee because I don't have like they didn't buy the pot, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Or I don't have the, you know, the something, a carafe to sit in it. You're like, dude, you don't need that. You don't need that. There are other ways to brew the coffee.
Yep.
Drink it
Oh, bro, speaking of which, hold on. I haven't even let people know this, but let me see if I can point the camera in the right direction. Like you see, let me see. Can you see that? You see that thing under that sign right there? Man. Yeah, man. A couple of my homegirls are putting me on the Jebina. My aroma homies are helping me learn. Like, because I want to learn. I'm like, if we're gonna make coffee black again, we gotta make the coffee the black way again. So like that's what we're getting ready to introduce to our community. I started yesterday, and one of my homies, his name is Ephraim from Boombuna out in Washington, and he was like, yo, you might want to bake that Jebina before you use it, because if it hasn't been baked, you're gonna get like pieces of clay. And so I was like ready to go, and then I started getting ready to brew, and then I was like, I saw these little pieces of clay. I was like, crap, I gotta bake it. So he has to teach me how to bake it. But I think that process is right. There's so many different ways. And like I've learned about from our Haitian producers that we're connected with through Jave Coffee and the Larison family. They got 64 acres. There's so many different ways black people have figured out how to brew, and brown people. Like so many different people have figured out different ways. I remember we talked to my homegirl in Trinidad, and she was talking about a way they brew coffee there. And like there's so many different ways, bro. Like we don't have to be bound by just one way, right? That's the sugar and cream mentality. You got to do it this way. If you don't do it this way, it's not good. And it's like, no, there are notes that can be articulated in other ways. So,
and again, like good taste is subjective. You know, what you find through you know, they might tell you, oh, you know, only use 20 milligrams of grind in here, and you have to grind it a specific way. Okay, cool. I'll do my 20 grams and I'll pour but that might not be aligned to your taste. You might want more.
Let me flip it. Let me remix it. You know what I mean?
Let me sample another 10. Yep. Maybe do 10 less. You know, and then see how you go. It's better that way. But then that's just my personal attitude towards coffee, because I think that perspective is valuable. It should be inclusive. How are we going to get people in if we're not being more inclusive? Like we shouldn't need to be buying all these bits and pieces. Like I don't want to. Coffee shouldn't be pretentious. Like that's gentrification taking over.
Come on, bro.
Taking over, you know. So
come on, bro.
You preach, man. You know what I'm excited about? I'm excited about like more roasters seeing the beauty in African coffee.
Yeah.
The resurgence of African coffee. I mean, there's always love for it. It's always hard to get a hold of especially when you're here in Australia. It's hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
But the fact that they show more respect around it, I'm more excited about it.
For the culture,
roasting it,
right?
For the culture,
and not just 100%. For the consumption. It's like the way of thinking, and not just the thing. You know what I mean? A lot of times, 100%. People that give me the thing, and then we'll do it the right way. And it's like,
Yeah.
Nah, there's a way here that's valuable that is missing and I think needed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, bro. Well,
Absolutely.
man,
Well, that's what we're part of this process, educating the folks slowly, one day at a time. We'll
yes,
get
brother.
there.
Yes. Well, look, I know you got to get to work. I got a baby in my hands.
Oh man, adorable baby, dude. I'm
This was
about to be in this
amazing.
situation, but we're
Yes,
gonna have
bro.
our second daughter in June.
Oh, congratulations, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
I always
Yeah.
wanted a daughter, bro. Like, part of me is like, my wife's like, you ain't getting no more kids.
No, yeah, that's the same as my wife now
Yeah.
too. I was like, I've always wanted a son, but now,
Yep.
not.
Hey, bro,
It's
we
over.
got 3 sons. We got enough for you.
Blessed, man.
Yeah.
I'll take care of one for you. Just send one
Hey,
over.
I'm saying we
I'll
gonna do the
them.
foreign exchange program. We gonna let it happen, bro. On the real tip, I keep saying I was gonna go, but I feel like a black preacher. Like I only got 5 more minutes, and then they just keep going. But it's like, man, I saw the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, and I immediately was like, I want to leave America. I want to leave, maybe not permanently, but I want to take my family and I want to experience a different way of blackness, a different way to be black, a different way to experience, And so I was like, we gotta go. And I was like, who do I know that we could go visit? Just pull out, we can bring some coffee with us, source some coffee, do some business, and also build some relationships. And like, for me, it's deeper than just products. I really want to connect the people. I want to connect our people here in America to the rest of the diaspora through coffee as much as Yahweh provides. And so, like, if that is something that, like, I don't know, man, just if you just throw it in the back of your head, we gotta connect, bro. Just keep it.
Yeah, man. We have a spot for you. I'm warming a bench for you, man. I'm warming the space for you,
bro. I'm always surprised. I'm always surprised by the generosity in the diaspora, and this is something that we Black Americans don't hear. Like, we don't hear growing up. We don't hear that, like, man, you got a home somewhere else. You don't gotta be here. Like, people don't tell us that. But then every time I talk to a brother or sister, they're like, yo, man, come through. I'm like, yo, this is really like talking to my cousins right now. You know what I mean? It's wild.
Talk, man. Consider me family now, man. Come in.
Hey, I'm with it.
Open arms. Especially when we go back. I mean, eventually we're on the same tip. Even Australia for us. I mean, it's not that we're blessed because it's a great country.
Yep.
The way everything that's going on, you guys can see the coronavirus we've handled well.
Yeah, bro.
We have universal healthcare here. Education isn't as expensive. Everything's great here in Australia.
Yeah.
Real talk, it's beautiful here.
Yeah.
But again, the seeds of racism kind of affected my experience here. So I have been ready to go back to Africa for a while. So if we ever go back, maybe to Kenya or wherever, Rwanda,
yeah, bro.
We're thinking maybe the next 4 or 5 years, you gotta come and check us out there too.
I'm saying, bro.
We're gonna keep a room for you guys.
Yes, bro. Yes. Well, look, I'm excited, man. This is gonna be super dope. This dude probably big enough to ride on the plane by himself, and our other boys will be excited. Wife will be excited. We working on it, man. So big things to come in the future. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
You, man.
Yes, bro. We're gonna holler at you,
man. You guys were genuinely. I mean, I was genuinely, and it wasn't just saying it. When I was genuinely inspired by you guys. Like, I wouldn't have started Aroma Coffee Co. if it wasn't for seeing you guys do your thing and showing that you can actually make an impact through a coffee.
Yeah, bro.
It's not something that people can grasp, but when I could visualize it through seeing your page, your Instagram page, it just made me realize that I can do it too. I can be part of the process. So thank you very much.
Hey, that's high key very humbling, bro. We're here in the hood in Memphis, bro, just trying to love people and love God and love this coffee. And it's crazy to think that, like, it matters to other people, but it's a beautiful thing. And I think it's a great way for us to kind of pay back what we received through, the discoveries of the Oromo people and so many other people in the diaspora. We've received so much encouragement just from the quality of the product to the history and being able to see people who look like us who've done these things. So, like, if we can pay it forward in any small way, it's an honor. You know what I mean? Real talk.
This is how you're doing it, man. Just being my friend.
Yeah.
That's how you're doing it. Straight up. Being my brother, that's how you're doing it, man.
That's what we gonna do it, bro. We gonna do it. Appreciate you, man. Well, look, keep that coffee black.
Also, your music, dude. Coffee, like Black Like Me, that song, man.
I wrote that song. Bro, I wrote that song when I met my first Oromo friend, Ibrahim. I wrote that song and I was talking to him. And I don't write lyrics like similar to how you're talking about coffee. It's not like I don't follow a recipe when I make music. I just let it come out of my spirit. Yeah, let it come out of my spirit. And so, like, as I was doing, I don't even know if I can say this on camera because some of the stuff is real spiritual, but like I like portions of the song, like you could, if you listen to it, like they're not in English. I'm gonna just leave it right there. And okay. I only speak English.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Okay. And like there are portions of the song where I was like, just, you know, I remember I was right over there actually, and like some of those lyrics were coming to me, and then I was like started just saying, you know, even in that moment, like saying like Black like the Oromo, and like thinking about the things my friend had told me, it just came out. And so like, yeah, bro, I'm glad that it is, because I wrote it honestly to be an encouragement. And so to find that it is like a beautiful thing, because it doesn't always happen, but when it does, you know, okay, God put this in me for a reason, to share with others, and I'm glad that it is having the impact it was meant to have, you know?
Yeah, please, man, keep producing that music, dude.
Yeah,
man, I can't stop listening to it, honestly.
I wrote a song, bro. When we make it to the continent, I wrote a song for it. It's not out yet, but I wrote it a couple weeks ago, and it's definitely a joint for when you meet up with all your cousins. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, we lit right now. So I'm pretty excited.
Awesome, man.
Dope, man. Well, hey, look, I'm not gonna hold you. This was a blessing to my spirit and to the work we're doing here, and I pray that it's an encouragement to you all. Y'all, please go support. Buy some coffee. I'm telling you, it's fire. It's delicious. And you see these little beautiful black babies on the front of the bags. It's just that's black love.
Man. That's my daughter. Bro. That's my daughter.
Oh, that's your daughter?
That's my daughter when she was 6 months old.
Come on, bro. When we say black coffee is generational wealth, that's what we mean, bro. Like that's what we mean, bro. I'm getting emotional. I gotta hang up. This is too much. But thank you so much, bro. Blessings to you and yours. And we're gonna see y'all soon.
God bless you, man. Thank you.
You too, bro.